first I want to take a little time to do something really quick. Is just think back and take a couple minutes. I want you to write the number one thing that's the most impactful and most proud of in the last 12 months in your business.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
In all four areas: your body, your being, your balance, and business. Just take a couple minutes to write, because for me, a lot of times, I tend to find myself frustrated a lot, right? Be frustrated where we're at, frustrated what's going on, frustrated with the business, just how I'm wired. And a lot of times it's not until I take time to sit back and reflect to where I've at and where I've come from. I've gone myself on a journey since 2008, right? To 2010, to 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015, right? 2017, 18, 19. Now, obviously, not to pause and go back, and you realize in many cases where our life is at now is unrecognizable to where it was. And so what we tend to do, though, as achievers, is we tend to discount that. Why? Because we're in the business and we're always looking forward. And so I think it's important at this time of the year, right, in December, to take a couple minutes, draw this out and put the number one thing that you're most proud of, or the most impactful in your business the last 12 months. Then I want you to do your balance, then your being, which is spirituality and or happiness. And the other one's body. Do that last, right? But it's important to look back in 2023. What's the most impactful? Or thing you're most proud of? If you can't think of anything you're most proud of, then guess what? There's a challenge right there. That's okay. Or if you're brand new, right, you may not have experience in that. It could be starting here, or making a transition, or making a new career change, whatever it is. If you've been here, though, even if it's been a tough year, it could be about overcoming, could be what you've done, your change, things you've learned, things you've adapted to, whatever it is. But this is called understanding and taking a look at the gap. What do you think the gap is? The gap is a time period between who you were, December 2022, and the person that you are, December 2023. Now, in many cases, you're in this business for years, and 3 years, and 5 years, and in some cases 10 years. You can do a lot of crazy things that can be done. But a lot of times we don't tend to really look at that and say, like, how can I can move this much, right? If you have especially for me, for example, going back 3 to 5 years, right, seeing what we know what to do and do as a father and have a family and do business at the same time, it's pretty cool to see things that can be accomplished and done. And looking back to the next 5 years or the next 10 years, I can do a lot more. Why? Because I'm much smarter now, right? I've been through the problems, been through the chaos, and so I'm able to extract those lessons and create what? Another gap. But for us, I think it's important as achievers to pause and take time to look back a little bit, because we're constantly chasing that horizon, right? We're constantly chasing that next thing, which tends to lead to burnout sometimes, frustration sometimes, whatever it is. And so it could be buying a car, buying a house, right? Whatever it is in that scenario that you did this year is powerful and impactful. Or made some adjustments, whatever it is in that. It's important to take that and anchor that, because this business allows you to do that. Or it could be a big deal you close, or whatever it is, salesperson of the month, or whatever it is that you have in that. I think it's important to look at. Take 2 minutes to write it down. If you don't have anything in that area, that just shows you that's where you need to go all in, and maybe play a little bit bigger in that area for 2024. Right? Or if it's something that's frustrating, whatever it is, that's the area that you probably want to make sure that you can do some work on to fix. Many times it can be neglected. Many times it could be just falling behind, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you're able to do that. But all of us can look back over the last 12 months, at least for the most part, and find something that we grew in, that we had an improvement in that helped us in that scenario, at least for most of the three of the four. We talked about the generations before that, right? Becoming homeowners. So a lot of times that shit that we even forget about, right? That we tend to discount, that if you take time to pause and look at that, that's the way to build massive long-term wealth going forward, right? And so breaking a curse, and there's a little things that we want to pause and take a little bit of time to make sure that we're able to focus on. And it goes to show that you gotten smarter, right, as you had time in the business. And so if you just fix that one challenge, you can obviously make a lot more money, right? And so the good news is that's the part where you want to identify which is your course correction in that scenario. You guys with me on that? Which is super important. So that's the key part here. The one thing we're going to focus on in 2024 is simple stuff. Kind of aligned with Warrior 2, but I want to make sure that we're doubling down on what we know, right? So obviously the first part we talk about, this is all that matters. So if you read a book next year, it's going to align with these three things. That's all that really matters, right? So I want to try to simplify all this shit with a million books, things going on. Number one, right? I'm a marketer, right? We talked about this before. I'm a marketer, right? What does that mean overall? I want these three things to be your identity in 2024. They got to like you and the company. That's a great way to put it, right? But on scenario 2, you got to be good at writing copy in 2024, right? There's less people going to answer the phones. There's going to be more difficult to do. It's going to be more crowded in that scenario. So it's important to make sure that you're able to understand marketing piece would be things like what? Email, right? Text, video, things like that. Also things that are online that people judge you by. What's your online presence look like, right? What type of stuff are your clients seeing about you? And so these are things that I want you to know. I was looking at what's some of our biggest weaknesses. It's truly our follow-up, the way we write, the way we follow up with emails, right? If you read a lot of the emails that are sent out through Boomtown, they're very few and far between, and the copy's not very good. Also in the text messages, it's not coming a place that does what? That attracts them in from that scenario. And so I will talk about from a affirmation standpoint, it's going to be all these three things here, right? Second one is what? Remember, I'm a closer. Now, why is closer different than anything else? What do you think closer means in this scenario? I'm not interested in just a conversation of sales. We're talking about what? I'm committed, and my conversations are always bringing people forward in their commitments. That's a straight line, right? My conversations are always doing what? Bringing people forward. Meaning I'm very purposeful. I'm not just here with some scripts or frameworks. I have the identity as a closer, meaning that I'm constantly moving people forward to do what? Make decisions. This is important, right? Because the closure piece and the leader piece are really going to be the biggest challenges for the two, and I'll explain why in that scenario. Number 3, I'm a leader. What does that mean in our bucket, so to speak? Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges we've had this year is getting people to do, gone from a frenzy, right, to people backing off and being a little more hesitant, right? What's happened? It's been a lot more difficult for some of the people who aren't good at closing and leading to do what? Get them to make decisions, right? So we're making the phone calls, making the text messages, getting face-to-face, signing them both on the listing side and the buyer side, and what happens? Nothing, right? Nothing, right? The listing price doesn't get down. It doesn't get to where it needs to be. Why? Because they don't believe you. They don't trust you to actually go forward, which is what a leader has to be able to help them do. They sign within the buyer agreement, guess what they don't do? They don't buy from you. Why? Because they're not being closed, move forward, and they don't look at you as a leader. And so in 2024, it's going to be very, very important, especially if you have a listing on the listing side, you've got to be able to lead these people. The problem is you tell them it's worth 200, they think it's worth 275, it doesn't sell because you're not leading them to where they need to be and they don't trust you, they don't believe you. Right? Just because we're saying it doesn't mean that they're actually going to believe you or take into what you're saying at all. And if anything, what's happening in many cases, right, is they're doing the opposite. You tell them something, they don't believe you as a leader, so they turn against you and they want to go somewhere else. And they're craving a leader who they can follow, who will actually guide them where they want to be. That's why a listing expires, it gets pulled off, they go somewhere else, and what happens to their price? It gets dropped because that person can lead them and has the ability to influence them through the closer piece and the leader piece to have them do what they need to do. And so if we can just take these three things and mash them in 2024, do you think you'll make more money or less money? A lot more money. And so I'm trying to simplify this. Like, look, I'm a marketer, I'm a closer, I'm a leader. All these three things here, if I just obsess about this, and every book I study, every podcast I listen to, is to develop that piece, guess what happens? I get much better, and I can lead them to where they need to be. Dude, so I'll show you the numbers. So last year, this time, we had 619 deals. This year, we got 515. So that's not all seller side. That's both sides, right? So there's 100 plus deals that are gone. Because, right, in this scenario, these are the two main pieces. Saying they look at buyer's agents, what are they struggling with? You guys know it. What do you struggle with? Like you sign them and what happens? They don't buy it, right? You struggle with this, right? Make the phone calls, make the dials, see what people, sign them, what happens? They're hard to get moved, right? And the way we do that is from the closure piece, leader piece, closure piece, leader piece. This is almost seen all across, but really, if you think about it, on the buyer side, what's happening is it's very difficult to get them to what? Do what? Take action, right? And so that comes from leading them in those pieces, and it comes from having them close on commitments to do what? I said a minute ago. Keyword. Move forward. Move forward. So the closing piece means what? I master having them small commitments. They do what? Forward. Overall in that scenario, right? Huge important piece to understand with that. Now here's the key part. The leader part is going to be broken down to these 6 savage skills we'll talk about. Talked about them before. Number 1. You guys remember what they are? I'm just setting the stage for what we're going to focus on in 2024. I got very clear on this last week. First part, speaking. Why is that? He talks about that's the number 1 skill anybody has because why? I'm in a business of what? Sales, which is a business of speaking. Everything's made money-wise based on how I do what? Speak to the client in a way that they can trust me, follow me, aka as a leader, which is super important. And so I'm giving you guys a roadmap of what we need to study going in 2024, and we're going to do it together, a little bit of a structure to it, but just kind of the plan of what we're going to do here, right? Second piece here is seduction. Seduction. What does that mean? Selling it says like that, moving them psychologically through the process. We talked about strategic seduction. We're going to kind of go deeper in that too. In 2024, let's probably spend 2 or 3 weeks on it. And it came from some advice of where, look, as a leader, I don't want to be just a performer up here every Tuesday giving you something that doesn't get acted on. Right? That was some criticism I got in a way from somebody that say, hey, a lot of leaders just doing performance every Tuesday. You come perform something like an actor, and then you teach a bunch, and then what happens? Nothing, it goes right away. And so I want to create a little more structure around it so we can really know what to study and simplify it. Marketer, closer, leader, and then I'll break the leader part down to these pieces here. But if I looked at us as an organization and how we adapted, we've done decent, but a lot of my friends, their business is still up in a market that's changing. Why? Because they're capturing market share. Make sense? And how we do that is through this piece right here. Seduction, second one. Third piece is teaching. Teaching who? The client. Now here's a key part. I'm teaching them frameworks. Frameworks. So that means what? Here's how the process works. Here's how our business works. And so I want you guys to understand, I want us to get good in 2024 of helping the consumer understand the framework of how things work. AK what? Here's how you buy a property. Here's the process we go through. Here's what's going to happen next. I think sometimes we make a mistake of just assuming that they know because we're in this every day. They feel lost and then they go seek something somewhere else. That make sense? So if I teach them the framework, they're going to know what happens next. What happens to their concern? Goes away. Right? It's a lot easier to have them be at ease if I'm going through that teaching the framework. And I just ask yourself the question, hey, look, can I get better at teaching the consumer, my client, the framework, what's going to happen? Yeah, both sides of the ball, I think we can do that. Right? It's something I'm looking at as well. Fourth piece here, right, is training. It's for us and them, right? But here's the key part of that. I own the container inside of the speaking. So here's what I do. I'm able to use the speaking piece with the teaching piece to allow them to do what? Know what's going to happen next. Here's what I need you to do next, client. Here's what I need to happen next, right? We're going to look at these 3 houses. I want you to pick out your top 5 and meet you 48 hours from now, whatever it is. That makes sense? In that scenario, which is important. Fifth piece here is the coaching aspect. I want you to understand the coaching piece is broken down by this part right here. Asking questions and extracting lessons. Asking questions and extracting lessons. Asking questions, extracting lessons. What does that mean? I lead them to where I need to go by doing what? Asking questions. Hey, look, what do you think about this? Can you guys picture yourself here? Can you see yourself in a house like this? Can you see yourself entertain your family here in December through the holidays? Whatever it is, that's what I want to get good at doing what? Coaching them, having them put themselves where? Into the playing field of where I want them to be. Okay, which is very, very important piece. And then the sixth piece we talked about before is consulting. And obviously that breaks down overall, right, is I lay down the blueprint and tell them what to do. So I give them the blueprint, aka what we talked about previously. Tell them what to do. All right, that's a focus for 2024 overall. If you do anything from a study standpoint, reading, listening, I want it to be alignment with those three things, right? Because why? I want to master the piece of marketer, the closer, and the leader. Super simple, right? That's just something I wanted you guys to take away. Hey, here's what 2024 is going to look like. Here's what I want us to focus on the most. And if you can just change this part from the identity standpoint of who you are from inside out, you're going to make a ton more money. Can everybody agree on that? That's the focus, right? But I need you to do this. I mentioned this before. I think it just goes over some people's head. Is I need you to change your identity of who you are. I'm not good at marketing. That's okay. What I do, I get good at it so that I am a marketer, right? And that comes from what? Studying copy. Now you can go on YouTube and learn anything, right? How to write great emails, whatever it is in that scenario. You can combine that with AI, but they still want you to be good at you, right? If everybody's using AI, you still got to be better, right? You still got to understand how to get what you need out of it. You with me on this? The closure piece, I think there are two biggest things for leverage are right here. I just feel as the markets become difficult, we haven't adjusted our behavior, so to speak, in how to move people. And I hear that from feedback from you guys, both sides, right? There's just a lot more resistance from the client. You agree? So we have that. And it's understandable as rates have gone up, prices haven't really come down. There's going to be natural resistance, which means I have to get better at the closing piece, which is having them move to take action. And the leader piece, which is to follow me and want to be willing to follow me and listen to me.